Okay, so I'm back. So what I did here is, this is a box, just like an electrical box I got from Home Depot. And inside of there, you'll see I've got a Lightning Audio. It's pretty much like a bus bar anyway. I've got 4 leads I can put in here that would give me hot. So basically what I've got is, I've got the hot running from my battery, my positives going into this disconnect here, and then from there I'm going to my winch and also going to this bus bar here. That means that any accessories that I'm going to add to this, which I can add 3 more in here, any of the accessories I add to this will all be on the disconnect. And I'm not going to be adding much more in that manner. Maybe some rooftop lights and a rear light in the back, and pretty much that's going to be the end of it where I'm going to do that. But the box comes in really handy because it keeps everything inside nice and neat. And I just run the wires out through the side there. And what I did with this box is I put some, in case water gets inside, I just drilled some drainage holes in it. And this right here is the relay for my hella lights. So I decided to put that in there, so that's also hidden, and there's my fuse for that. So all that's hidden. Now, to make it very accessible, what I did was, you can see I'm moving it around here, is I used some pretty heavy duty Velcro that I just stuck there on the inside, and all I do is I just stick it right there on the side, and it does not move. It doesn't come off. I've driven it like that. I've probably driven it now like that probably close to 5,000 kilometers since I've done it, and it hasn't come off. It holds on perfect through all weather, through the cold. We'll see how it does here in the summer when it gets hot, but through the cold it hung on perfect. So that's how that is. And then I just stick it back on there. I'll stick the cover back on it, stick it back on there, and then there it is. So, but when I want all this stuff to work, if I'm going off road or something and I want all this stuff to work, I just turn it on, and now that's hot. Now my lights are hot. Everything should work. My winch, everything should work. But when I'm not using it, flip that breaker off, that disconnect there, and now everything now is disconnected from the battery. What I'm going to eventually do is I'm going to eventually mount a second battery right over here, and I'm going to run everything off of that. So to just be a matter of just rerouting the power from over here at this battery to over here, and I can just leave everything still intact right over there. It should be a simple, easy thing to do. Take me probably less than an hour to do it once I get the battery mounted over there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put this back together real quick. When I do projects like this, I once did an Astro van that's been hanging out there on the net for a while. It's gone now. I sold it to somebody, but I like to do things on the cheap. It's maybe it might be a little old hot rodders thing, to try to get all this stuff done, on a dime budget. That's the way I've always done my cars since my very first car that my dad gave me straight from a junkyard, with a motor that was in a wheelbarrow. So since then I've always wanted to do stuff on the cheap, and you know, not pay, you know, tons and tons and tons of money for stuff, and try to do everything myself on the cars and not pay tons of money. And that way I can learn a little bit, because you can know a lot about a car, but you can't know a lot about all the cars. So every car I've ever had, I always do my own work on, and I learn a little bit more about those cars and their particular quirks and what they need done. Okay, so that's back in there. So I just stick it to the Velcro right there, and that box stays in put. Doesn't move an inch. Okay, I'm gonna close that. All right, so moving on. Probably one of the last that I just did. So these are the OEM wheels, and what I did was I took them and I had them sandblasted at a place here by my house here, and brought them home and masked them all off and repainted them. Rust-Oleum rattlers on this as well. As you can see, that color matches pretty darn good. I'm going to go in the back here so you can see it up high. So that color matches pretty good. And what I did was, that was two-stage of painting. So this, the yellow, is I believe it's Rust-Oleum's Marigold. It's Rust-Oleum's Marigold Gloss for all you guys who have Sun Fusion. So that's the color I used there. And the white, once again, is the same white I used on the grill up front. That would be the trim clad gloss white that I used on that. And like I said, it took me over a week to paint these. As a matter of fact, it took me 5 hours just to tape this all off. So it's not something that I'd probably do again, but it was something I did because, I don't know, I was bored, I don't know, crazy, I don't know, I just did it. So of course I had the tires off, I had it sandblasted, and what I did was I painted, you can see inside of there, all that's white inside. So basically the whole rim is white, and then I masked all the white off and then painted the marigold in there around the edges to accent it. As far as the cap goes, very easy to paint. You once you pop that cap off, the Toyota symbol in the middle, you can just pop that off from behind, and it just pops right off. So I was able to paint those separately and pop them back on. So it came out pretty nice. What I did is I had it came with, from the dealership, it came with Wrangler SRAs, 265/70 R17 Wrangler SRAs, and you know what? It's a tire. That's all I can say. It's a tire. It's not a very aggressive tire, but they like to advertise it as an all-terrain tire. But it's not. It's not. It's a street tire that you can maybe take onto some dirt roads and stuff like that. But so I upgraded them just a bit, because before I put these wheels back on, I wanted to put a slightly aggressiver tread on here, and so I put on these Cooper AT3s Discoverer tires, and Kijiji find. I got these tires for $400. I think it was, yeah, $400. The gentleman I bought them from, he only ran them one summer, and then he switched out to his winter tires, and then he sold his vehicle afterwards during the winter, and his new vehicle had 20-inch tires on it, so he had no need for these. They were sitting in his garage, so $400. I drove 3.5 hours to get them, and they're like brand new. Lots of tread left in there. It's an aggressive tread. I got a rock in there. It's more aggressive than the SRA. These are not the tires I'm going to end up with eventually. I'm going to probably end up with either a BF Goodrich mud terrain, or I may even go to the Cooper mud terrain. They have a new one out that's really sparked my attention. And it's going to be a much taller tire. It's going to be a 33 to 34 inch tire that I'm going to put on here, which may or may not entail doing a body mount chop, which is right here behind this piece here. You have to chop that out if the tire's rubbing. I don't think it's going to, because I'm going to run a narrow tire. I'm going to go with a pizza cutter for this rig, and so I think that's where I'm going to end up. But for right now, those tires will do. I'm going to take a long road trip here down into the States. I'm going to travel through about 5 states, and I just wanted a little bit more aggressive tire. In some of the states where I'm going to be definitely off of pavement, so I wanted just a slightly aggressive tire to make this trip on. And when I come back, hopefully I'll get the Chingo together and can get the final tires that I'm going to run on this. Now, thoughts on updates on some of the other stuff. This US off-road bumper, I love it, absolutely love it. It looks great. Have no complaints about it. I do have suggestions or tips, whatever you want to call it, about the bumper though. It's steel, so steel, you get nicks in it or whatever, you got to stay on it if you paint it, because it will rust. I mean, it does. But one of the things that I wish I had done before I painted it is, what you notice is paint. If you're anybody who's painted for a living, you'll know that paint has issues. It goes thin on edges. It's just what it is. You can lay it on thick on a flat piece, but it goes thin on edges. So what I'm getting is right here along these edges, I'm getting a little bit of rust. No big deal. Take me not even 2 hours to fix that. Also right here, you can see. So I'm going to be taking the bumper off pretty soon and redoing these edges. So I get nicks, and I get right here on the edge, and that's not any fault of the bumper. What it is it's that it's an edge. It's an edge, and paint goes thin on edges. You can't avoid it. However, what you can do to help yourself avoid that, which I had thought of and I didn't think of that, because my father's told me that before, is when you prepping this and you're roughing up that steel to get it ready for its first coat of primer or whatever you're going to do for it, is to take a grinder and round those edges off, because their paint will go on thicker if you round the edges off. So I wish I had a thought of that before I had done it, and it's, like I said, it's an easy fix. I'll remove the lights, I'll remove the off-road lights there, take the bumper off. It'll probably take me about 10 minutes if you see my other videos to do that. And then I'll just maybe even take the cable off and take off my housing there. And then I'm just going to just rough this whole thing up, just the outside. I'm not going to worry about the inside because it's still good. I'm going to rough the whole thing up again, and I'm going to hit all those edges with that grinder. I'm going to round all those edges off so they're rounder, and the paint will stick to them a little bit thicker. And then that way, when I repaint it, then I won't get, because it's pretty much, if it's not a nick, then it's pretty much at the edges, because the paint is much thinner on edges than it is on something that's round. So that's one of the things I got to do. When I put this snorkel in, I'm gonna open this up again. When I put the snorkel in, as you can see, there's the OEM parts here, and what happens is it goes over to here, and then the snorkel, you got to cut the end of this off, and the snorkel has a rubber tube that mates this to the snorkel housing here, and you pass it through this opening. When I did that, you have to take off the liner inside of here to get to everything you need to do. A word of advice I will give you right off the bat: if you're going to do a project like this, go to your Toyota dealer and get there's button clips and stuff like that. It'll cost you about 20 bucks. Get all your clips and buttons for that liner. When you had a FJ and it's been on the road a lot, that stuff, that plastic gets harder, and it's not as pliable, so you go to pop that stuff off and it's breaking on you, and then you're gonna get your snorkel in, and you're not gonna have hardly any clips to hold that liner up. And so go ahead, just before time, go get those clips and get them and just be done with it. If you don't use them all, great, you got spares anyway, but it'll just save you time from having to like run down to the dealership, and wiring that thing up, or just letting it dangle in there until you get to the dealership to get those clips. So go ahead and get those clips that hold that liner in prior to doing your snorkel. Another thing I did was I removed the antenna. I don't need it no more. I run my radio and my CB using a Procom splitter off the fire stick in the back. So I removed the antenna because I just didn't want the antenna on there sticking out, because what's the point if it's not even being used? So this panel here you have to remove as well. Same thing. If you're going to remove your antenna, if you decide you're going to remove it or anything, your best bet would be to get the clips for this panel as well, because when you take that panel off, you're going to break it. That's bottom line. You're going to break it. You're going to break those clips when you take it off. Can't avoid it. Taking the antenna off is not a difficult thing to do, but it is a pain in the butt. You got to get it behind this liner in here to get to some of the to get a couple of the bolts that hold it in, and you have to also take this liner off to get to it over here inside. It is a pain in the butt to do, but I already had this liner off to do the snorkel, so I went ahead and I took the antenna out. Now, one of the things that I wanted to put is you end up with a hole here, right? So what I did, I searched and I put forth a couple of bucks in buying just little rubber inserts to fill that hole up, and it's such an odd shape that I couldn't find one that fits in there. I searched around the forums and everything and couldn't find one that fits in there, so I just said screw it. And what I did was I took that same to -40 silicone, and I just basically just glued this rubber piece that's from the original antenna back on temporarily, and it keeps the water out, and it's not going anywhere. So it does the job, and the antenna's not there. So that's what I wanted. Another thing I'll point out, as I was getting these clips from the dealer, was something I didn't know. For some odd reason or another, these little pieces here on both sides get stolen a lot. Why? I don't know. The dealer doesn't know, but he says he gets waves where people are coming in all of a sudden, and they're buying these. And because, at least here in Edmonton, he said every now and then, you know, every couple of years, there's waves, and these things all get stolen off a bunch of FJs. I don't know why. Maybe somebody's out there enterprising, maybe trying to get a bunch of those and prep them for River Raider type snorkels that were going to come up out of here. That's what I was originally going to run, was a River Raider snorkel that's going to come out of here. But I was talked out of it. I wanted it, but I was talked out of it. Why? Because the wife thinks that these snorkels look so much cooler. So I said, okay, you know what? I'll do it. I'll save the money. I'll put it elsewhere, and just go ahead with the traditional snorkel. So that's where we're at right now. Things coming down the line for this would be new tires, I'm thinking, and a rooftop tent, and then just all my little accessories. And if that things work out, that'll be what the upgrades will be for this year. And then I'm going to be doing some off-roading and maybe sharing some videos of that. And hopefully you guys will stick along for the ride. So thanks for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. I don't put up a lot of videos or anything, but when I have something to show, I show it. And I'm more than willing to share information on how something's done, or how I did it, or what problems I ran into. I'm more than willing to share that information with people. So I'm trying to help out the FJ community, give back a little, because the FJ community has given so much to me with information and people sharing information out there. So, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.